She says she was a fashion model before Photoshop existed. But she prefers that she can now chat with Nobel Science Prize winners. Please welcome Joanne Manaster.
Hello. Thank you for joining me tonight on this incomplete yet informative and fast-paced journey that parallels the progression of fashion with the progression of science. I'll be your guide. I'm a former professional model, an expert seamstress, and a university faculty lecturer of biology, and I'm pretty good at sharing science on Twitter. You can follow me at Science Goddess. The 20s was the decade in which fashion entered the modern era. Women abandoned the more restricting fashions and began to wear comfortable clothes such as trousers and short skirts with pleats, gathers, and slits to allow motion. The Roaring 20s are remembered for the flapper look that flattened the bust line rather than accentuating it. In science, the 20s saw the rush to create vaccines, a discovery by a Canadian researcher that insulin plays a major role in diabetes, the accidental discovery of penicillin by Alexander Fleming, and the exciting advances in the world of polymers that will play a role in our fashion future. A more conservative approach to fashion displaced that of the 20s. Skirts became longer and the waistline was returned to the normal position in an attempt to bring back the traditional womanly look. Paris couturiers and Hollywood were influencing each other, and shoulders were important focal points for both men and women. In the 30s, Werner von Braun brought us the earliest rocket, we gained the electric guitar, and Heisenberg certainly won a Nobel Prize. We could finally see viruses, start making nylon stockings, smash atoms, and learn that the life flows from DNA to RNA to protein. In the 40s, a tailored feminine look was prized, and accessories such as gloves, pearls, and hats were popular. The era saw the beginning of mass production of clothing to save on material and labor. Swing style became an integral part of 40s fashion, and Hollywood still held the height of glamour. Also, the bikini. Dating of the radiocarbon kind was hot in the 40s. ATP is cellular currency, and there'd be no bikini without the Manhattan Project. A chemical weapon redeems itself as a cancer drug. DNA indeed is the material we use to pass traits along, and U of I's John Bardeen gives us the transistor. The 50s began with Christian Dior's new look, which consisted of below mid-calf full skirt, pointed bust, and small waist. Science had arrived to textiles. Synthetic materials such as Orlan, Dacron, and poplin became available and could retain heat-set pleats after washing. Salk's polio vaccine begins the polio eradication success story. The first kidney transplant offers hope. We learned many things about DNA, including its structure. Scientists made the precursors to life from inorganic molecules, and 3, 2, 1, the space race blasts off with the launch of Russia's Sputnik into orbit. The 60s brought us urbanized clothing, which could be worn in separate pieces. False eyelashes were in vogue, as was pale lipstick. Hemlines kept rising. We saw the angel dress, drain-pipe jeans, and patterned tights. Ultimately, mod culture altered fashion to a more laid-back hippie style. Paleontologist Andrew Leakey found evidence that humans emerged from Africa. The first lasers came on the scene. Complex cells are really cooperations between bacteria and other cells. We began to understand plate tectonics, and boy, were we busy in space. Pulsars, quasars, Russians in space, and Americans on the moon. 70s saw a return to three-piece suits with matching vests and wide collar shirts. Clothes were close-fitting on the top with crop and halter tops, looser on the bottom with high-waisted flare trousers. Floral prints were in fashion, as were sweaters and caftans. Makeup was garish and glittery with eyebrows thinly plucked. CT and MRI emerged as imaging methods. Science found life in deep ocean vents. Lucy, our ancestor, was found. America sent multitasking orbiters to study space, discovered the structure of antibodies, produced the pocket calculator, and while you may not have known it, email came to be. In the early 80s, men and women wore looser shirts and tight, close-fitting trousers, introducing blocky shapes and big tops with giant shoulder pads and bright colors. Leggings and exercise wear with ankle warmers were popular, as were side ponytails and headbands. Iconic music fashion influencers included Madonna and Michael Jackson. Science made copies of DNA thanks to PCR. We experienced cold fusion confusion and then sent shuttles back and forth into space. We theorized that asteroid impact caused mass extinction and found the virus that caused AIDS. Smallpox was declared eradicated, genes were implicated in cancer, and we realized we are very much like chimps. The 90s were the decade of anti-fashion when street fashion went out over haute couture. Women wore denim button-down shirts, neon colors, oversized sweaters, and t-shirts. The goth look, grunge look, and hip-hop look rode the fashion wave, but streetwear predominated with curve-hugging bandage dresses appearing on starlets. Humans set up home in low Earth orbit upon the International Space Station, launched the World Wide Web, and sent the Hubble Space Telescope into orbit. We began sequencing the entire human genome, created phones increasingly smarter than we are, cloned a sheep, and tried out therapies to fix genes. The noughties were a mashup of previous decades, including a mix of minimalism with ethnic influences. The maxi dress made a return, and boho chic emerged from our indie tendencies. We saw Crocs, Uggs, flip-flops, Daisy Dukes, ripped jeans, ponchos, Burberry, denim jackets, hoodies, skinny jeans, and tank tops. The Large Hadron Collider opened for particle collision. Pluto was demoted in planetary status. Epigenetics shows that traits can be inherited from external influences, not just genes. Candidates for Earth-like exoplanets increase. Junk DNA might serve some purpose, and the little blue pill made life a little more exciting. So, how does the progression of science and fashion flow? Do we build upon previous events, or is it a process where brand new ideas are adopted and old ones abandoned, creating genuine novelty? New tools, technologies, and ideas arise from old to create the next strides that both reflect and influence culture. Thank you.